Hey there, today I'm going to show you my Clay workflow and I'm really excited by it. And really the magic starts right here. In the validate email step, what I'm doing is checking whether or not, first of all, if I have an email, and second of all, can I email this particular prospect based on whether or not I have touched another prospect at the same domain. This is an important check. I did a separate video on that. Take a look at that if you're interested. And if these are true, then I will go ahead and pass the email address into the zero bounce enrichment and get back values like this. These are valid emails. Ali at Banana Tag is valid with the G Suite SMTP provider. So that's wonderful. From there, what I do is I'm using a two-step waterfall tactic for finding open jobs at that particular company. Now, this is the particular play that I'm running in this Clay table. I'm looking for job openings for specific SDRs. Let's take a look. And you can see here, I'm passing in the LinkedIn company URL, and I've configured these keywords as the kind of job openings that I'm interested in. And then importantly, I'm excluding certain keywords because I want to specifically find situations where a company is hiring an SDR, but not an SDR manager, for example. And so that's what's happening here. Filtered it further down to locations in the United States. And with that, I also make sure I add my only run if conditions. And one, there has to be a valid email, and the SMTP provider has to be G Suite. That's unique to me. For your circumstances, you could use all of the SMTP providers if you want. Then I extract the job information. You can see some of those details here. And the job information include things like the title of the job opening, the description of the job opening, and so forth. But what if there's no job found? Well, what I found is that in many cases, there are results, of course, and that's wonderful, but approximately 50% of these particular prospects were specifically downloaded from ZoomInfo or Apollo based on third-party data signaling that there was a job opening in the last month. And so I would expect to find a job, and yet many came back as no job found. I found that troubling. I went to Google Jobs and manually searched myself, and I found that in fact there were job openings as recently as 3 days ago, 10 days ago, and so forth. So I added this additional enrichment tab called Find Open Jobs using Google, but this requires some extra manipulation. So the first thing I did is I used the company domain as the search criterion. Then I used the same keywords as before. And of course, use the only run conditions because these do use up Clay credits every time you run this job. Now, the difference is that when you get back results from this particular enrichment, the results that you get do not include the job description. And that's really what I want for the campaign. And you'll see why in a moment. All that you get from this particular enrichment is the type, the title, and the job link. So that's kind of unfortunate. You have to do some extra work here, but it is very doable. Let me show you what I did. These are the titles that came back. And what I do is I copy this information, all these job links. Let's take a look at one so you can see. So we have a BDR at ChargeB, and it's got some information here. That's great. So if we can find a way to scrape this information and bring it back into Clay, then we're all good. It's as if we ran this job right here, and we got the description and the job title that they're hiring for. Unfortunately, the Clay agent doesn't quite capture the information, and I think part of it has to do with the way that this loads. You'll see that when I reload it, it takes a moment to actually bring in this window, and I've tried setting up to a 10-second delay on the Clay agent, and it doesn't quite capture it. But have no fear, we have another solution. What I do is I copy paste all of these job links that are found, and I bring them over to a spreadsheet. In this spreadsheet, I set up all the origin URLs that you see here. These are all just copy pasted over from the results of that Clay table. Then what I do is I fire up browse.ai, And in here, I have a workflow where I have trained their robot to run a particular task. And the task is very simple. It will go open that URL and then fetch the data that I want, the highlights, the description. And what comes out of this is it automatically posts data back here under captured text. And so under captured text, what I have is the moment that it ran the job, the heading, and the job text. So now we head back to Clay and I add a new enrichment lookup row. This is really cool because I don't have to manually copy paste information back and forth. Instead, what I have is the URL for that sheet. That's this right here. And I have the sheet ID, captured text, which I showed you, and the lookup column. What is going to be the key that we look up in order to match the data that's in Clay versus the data that's in the spreadsheet? And that's the origin URL. And then the value that I want back. In this case, the job link results is the value that I'm looking up over here. So once it actually finds a row, the result is captured as you see here. All right, so now we have the job text and we can bring that back into Clay. And that's what you see here. I go ahead and I bring that in. I look up the row, get the first row, and I get the job text. One important thing to note here, I have this additional formula called substring 0 to 8,000 because I found that if you copy over or bring in through any means text that is greater than 8,000 characters, then Clay will error out. And effectively, Clay doesn't want more than 8,000 characters or so in the individual cell values. So important element there. And then the last step is to create my highlights extract. This is just some additional formatting I put on, which I say, did we get this from Google or did we get this from the other job, find active job opening enrichment? And bring it together with a title that says the job posting for a particular title is such and such. Okay, so now we have all this data in one column, and what I've done is I have determined whether or not this is a B2B sales function. For that, I'm using ChatGPT with a 4.0 mini model, and I'm telling it, I will give you a job title, and all you have to do is output yes if it involves B2B sales or no otherwise. I gave it a bunch of examples that you see here. So lifecycle marketing, no. Account manager, no. Associate technical account manager, no. But SDR, yes, and so forth. So with that, it very accurately determines whether the job title that's being hired for is related to B2B sales, which is important for my purposes here. Next, I'm going to normalize the job title. A lot of times the job title that they're hiring for, as you can see, has a variety of other information in it, levels, regions, and other things like that. So I use this function here called ChatGPT, again, 4.0 mini, very inexpensive. And I tell it I have a job title from a posting and I want you to normalize it. I gave it a bunch of examples, again, few shot prompting here. And I say SDR, senior BDR should be senior BDR. Business development rep in the healthcare sector should be just BDR. Once I run that, it goes ahead and outputs the normalized title. And just to show you what this cost, this is, what's that? That's like a millionth of a penny. So yeah, it's worth it. Now, we've got that job description from the earlier column. And here I'm just taking the job description that we got either from the Google method that we looked at or the find active job openings enrichment directly from Clay. So this is essentially a merge column. And now what I have it do is create a job description extraction. In this step, I'm asking ChatGPT to look at the job description and essentially normalize it for me to work with it when I want to create my personalized emails. In other words, I wanted to try to tease out the description of the role, anything that is unique about the sales program, key metrics that they're looking at, etc. And then I tell it, here is the job description. And with that, we get information out like this. You can see that it is looking at all of those elements and pulled it out from the job description. And now we're going to use that in our personalized emails. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to navigate over. And what I've done here is I've classified the job title of the person that I want to outreach to. This is my prospect. And I say, I need you to classify the job title of my prospect into one of 4 specific categories. And I'm doing this because I want to speak specifically to their pain point. A different way to do this would be to set up 4 different campaigns, have different email templates for each one. But in this case, I'm using this step effectively as a mux, as a router to choose what kind of person am I speaking to and how might I personalize the email based on their specific category. So based on that, we get the classifications here. And then I create my base email template. The base email template, this looks rather complex, but it's just because I'm using some randomization to add a little spin tax. But effectively it says, hey, first name, and then my base email template. You can take a quick read at it if you are so inclined. Essentially, I've created 2 different email templates, and then I'm randomizing which one I will use for each prospect, just to create a little bit of variance in the email that's delivered. But here's really the punchline. Now we get to it. In this step, it is the personalized email content for the first step in the sequence. And here I'm using the 4O model. I've tested a few of the other models, but this one works the best. And it's still rather inexpensive. So you could read the whole thing here when you get a chance, or hit me up in the comments and I'll drop the whole prompt. But effectively I say, look, a target company is hiring and I'm going to give you a job description. I'm going to give you the job title. I want you to glean information from this job posting and find a way to use my base email template as inspiration for how you might combine these 2 together. So here's my job title, here's the description of the job, here's my email template, and you have to follow these very important rules, right? It should be friendly, it should be personal, you should avoid these courtesy openings, I hope this email finds you well, dead giveaway, it's just rank and stock ChatGPT content, and so forth. You can see all these rules here, pause the video, take a look at them, and that is pretty much the prompt. It's rather simple and straightforward. The output then starts looking like this. And you can see that for each individual prospect, we have not only it follows the template and tone of the original base templates that I provided, but it starts blending in information from the job description so that it feels personalized, it's directly relevant to the job posting that they're hiring for. And in this particular campaign, I'm really trying to touch on the idea that when you have to scale SDR teams, when you have to bring on a bunch of SDRs, the quota attainment might suffer. The ability to maintain email throughput, the ability to maintain SDR productivity and efficiency might sag. And so positioning IntroHub, aka Nubara, as an alternative solution to that is really the purpose of the campaign. So the next thing I do is create the subject line. And here we're looking at very similar prompt. I gave it the body of the personalized email, and then I have it write a subject line, and I give it examples of different subject lines that have high open rates. At least these were as of July 2024 from various gurus. It creates different subject lines. And the reason, again, to create all these different subject lines, it's not that I think that one performs better than the other. It's to create more variance in the text that goes through the email service providers so that you don't have the same subject line over and over and over and over, because that will get flagged as spam by the ESPs. Now, some people like to create a second touch follow-up that is a quick ping. That's okay. I think there's room for improvement there. Really, your follow-up emails should have additional value, right? You should be following up with something meaningful. And so here, very easily, I created a second personalized email as the follow-up, and it's very similar setup to the first. I tell it, I already sent this email, which is the one that was drafted over here. And then I said, write a personalized follow-up that builds on this email. And if you can, focus on the pain points and initiatives relative to these particular items. So I'm telling it, try to create an email that somehow incorporates the title of the prospect, the job description research that we performed, and the key value propositions of the product that I'm selling. And then again, follow these important rules, and we get a follow-up. And they're thoughtful, and it's following up. It's touching on specific tools that they have mentioned in their job description that the SDR will have to use. It's blending in the concepts of Nubara, also known as IntroHub, to secure more introductions and get meetings with prospects rather than relying on simply cold email. Because look at all the things that we have to do just to get someone's attention nowadays. All right, that's the flow. When all of this checks out, my last step is to call the add lead to campaign function step, and it puts it into a particular campaign. I've mapped out all the different lead properties and fields, and I pop those into the appropriate key value pairs that will map to the campaign inside of Smart Lead. Of course, I have some conditional run steps, and really this just prevents me from sending a lot of garbage to Smart Lead, especially when you're adding a lot of leads and prospects into this table. You can find yourself in a situation where your waterfalls start triggering, and before you know it, you've already queued up emails and they've been already sent. And that did already happen to me. It did suck a lot. So learn the hard way. Make sure you add conditional steps. Also, I recommend turning this off until you've got everything completely crisp and tight. Then maybe you can turn this on and you'll be ready to rock. So that's pretty much it. If you want to see what this looks like on the far end of the tool where we're actually sending these campaigns out, this campaign just started and we've got some opens trickling in. Let's take a look at the leads here. This is the lead list. And now this is all the information that came from Clay. These step 1 email, step 2 email, the custom subject line for step 1, all that is here. And like I said earlier, I did enable those webhooks so that whenever we send out an email from this particular campaign, it will post back to Clay and give us that information in here for us to identify when is the last time we touched this lead and when is the last time we touched this domain. So take a look at that other video because I think that is an important step and there's more to learn. So I'm gonna get back to work. I'm really excited to keep iterating on this and playing with Clay and really stepping up the game in everything automation. It's really an exciting time. If you have questions, the DMs are open, as are the comments, and I look forward to seeing you.